You got big brass marbles walking in here again, don't you? Filthy hoe.
Oh, why would you say such a thing?
Oh, you know why I said it. You know what you did. Don't act like you don't know. It's all over the internet.
All right, man. I will apologize on our podcast right now. I'm sorry that I cheated on you with another podcast.
Yeah, you should be. I hope you mean it. I hope you're sincere about this.
Absolutely mean it. Like, I took no pleasure in being on the Art Speaker podcast that people can get at artspeak.co.
And you would just say that right here on this podcast.
It's a great interview series where they discuss artistic endeavors with Indianapolis artists, and I just happen to fall into that category, Pete.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of artists and paying them their due, that's a pretty swell photo they used. What about artistry? What say you, Jake?
They totally did take a photo. I don't like being used for promotional purposes. That's true.
Who took the photo?
Oh, Smooth Images took the photo. One of my good buddies from college, Justin. He's like the photographer I go to all the time. I hire him for my shows. He's the best.
Thank you for giving him credit.
Yeah, at Smooth Images.
Thank you.
But yeah, that photo actually, when I first got it taken years ago, I wanted to use it for some non-wrestling promotional things.
Tinder profile.
Yeah. I think this was before Tinder.
What
was before Tinder?
There was a before Tinder?
I mean, I would say MySpace, but it wasn't that old.
Did you have to like talk to people IRL?
It probably was my Facebook profile picture at some point. I don't know. Maybe not. Anyway, but yeah, so anytime a wrestler gets a new promo pic, it's on like flyers of that for that person for the next like 6 months, and I hated that. And I didn't want this photo to be on flyers because I have a bandana on and I have chains on. Neither of those have to do with my wrestling character.
He means literal chains. If you haven't seen it, not like necklaces. He's wearing literal chains.
Oh yeah, like steel chains with like links. But I didn't want that to be on flyers for the next 6 months, maybe 8 months of my life. And I was using this for some acting stuff. So I even put under the in the caption, under the photo, do not use this for promotional use ever. And I still had promoters message me, hey man, can we use that cool new photo? And I was like, no. And one of them even messaged Smooth and was like, hey, can we use that photo? We got permission from him. And I was like, no, you can't. And they got really, really pissed off at me, man.
They went behind your back to use your 2 Chainz photo?
Yeah,
they
tried to go to behind my back, and I was not happy, man. I was not happy about it at all.
You've seen Waiting with Ryan Reynolds, right?
Of course.
So is this like your penis game amongst you and the wrestling bros and other promoters? Is this how you screw with each other?
Like, take a bunch of photos and say you can't use it?
No, just like, dude, he hates this promo pic. And the reason why he hates it is because, like, is this how you guys screw with each other on the road?
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff we do, like, to each other on the road, like that. Mm-hmm.
This is my prompt, bro. I need to know more. Like,
like way we mess with people?
Yeah, screwing with each other.
Oh yeah, I mean that's like those are little tiny ribs. But yeah, on the road we mess with each other and do jokes and stuff like that all the time. Like a lot of times you'll hide someone's bag or hide someone's gear. Or one time someone put like icy hot in the guy's jock strap.
Is that as uncomfortable as you'd think?
Yeah, it seemed like it because my friend Dave flipped for like 20 minutes talking about how much his genitals burned. And yeah, I don't think he was faking it.
Did the cooling effect ever take place?
I don't know. Apparently, neither one feel good. I'm trying to think of some other good like little tiny examples, but I don't actually try and rib people anymore because the last few times I've tried to rib people, it's backfired on me horrendously. So I'm just kind of like I just go with the flow now.
That seems real lame. How bad could the crap possibly be? Like the story we've had on air. Mm-hmm. There's a Jerry Maguire tape in your bag.
That's funny.
Icy hot on someone's genitals. I mean, come on, dog.
Yeah, so I'll give honorable mention to the Tony X Jeremy Hadley rib. That's a story for another day. But the worst rib ever played on me was by Scotty Young and Keith Cream. And Scotty Young, for the purposes of this recording, we're just going to refer to as Dwayne. So it doesn't get confusing.
I know both those dudes.
I
haven't seen Mr. Cream in a while, though.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you saw him at Pendleton like a couple months ago. So I'll start this with years ago, Dwayne and I weren't friends with Keith. And at the time, Keith had a partner, and the 4 of us had a bunch of matches together. We were not friends with Keith. Keith was a veteran and like, I don't even say mentor figure, but he was our superior by a lot. So we were scared of him because he was mean.
Like, he was mean to us and we were intimidated.
Yeah, they carried themselves like they were 7'4", 500 pounds, like monster machines. Their finish, what did they call it? Oh, they called their finisher the Napoleon complex because they're both actually like 5'8". And they carry themselves like they're, 7 foot tall. They were scary dudes, and they kind of like helped run the scene in Michigan. So that's to preface this. So years and years ago, when I was really young in the wrestling business, my best friend in the business was Scotty Young, aka Dwayne. And he lived in Niles, Michigan, which is a really classy town if you've never been to Niles, Michigan.
Who's been to Niles, Michigan?
Yeah, not too many people. It's not a great place. But Dwayne had a pretty bomb house in a very hood part of town, which the town of Niles is a very hood town. So it was like right there next to those train tracks, and there were a lot of noises at night, which later we found out were gunshots, maybe. I don't know.
Is that 8 Mile? Is that where it was?
Let's just act like it's 8 Mile, but this is in like rural southern Michigan near Indiana.
That's pretty much 8 Mile. Yeah.
Yeah. So years ago, I used to spend a lot of time at Dwayne's place because I'd go up there and crash for a few days, and we'd go to shows and come back, and we'd go to other shows and come back. It was just like a great hub to be there, and we were hanging out all the time anyway. So we had been getting tight for like a year or maybe even 2. And one day came along where we got asked to do this show in Michigan, this really big show called MCPW. Coincidentally, I'm working for them this weekend. But they had their biggest show of the year, which was called Battleground. It was a huge deal. And we got offered the opening match on the show. It was a great thing for 2 young guys trying to make their name because this was a loaded show. Like the main event was, current WWE champion Seth Rollins defending his belt, I think, against Jimmy Jacobs. There's some big names on the show.
Where's Rollins from?
Davenport, Iowa.
So how did he get on this show? Is that just the draw that it had?
Yeah, it was just, this was just northern Michigan, and that's probably, I don't know if it was a 10-hour drive from there, but that's not that much because we make drives longer than that all the time. Like I drove the first time I went to Quebec City last year, like 16 hours each way. So 10 hours isn't bad, especially if you're really lighting the wrestling world on fire. That happens all the time. People will book you and just make that drive. So nothing out of the ordinary. Now, I don't know what the ordinary for us to be on a show with some pretty big names in northern Michigan. So it's like a 7-hour drive for me, but it was only like a 4.5 hour drive from Niles, Michigan, where Dwayne lived. So I went up like a day or 2 early, and we're hanging out and having fun. And I'd been up there a lot lately, and it had come to my attention that I feel like Dwayne's sister may or may not have been a little bit interested in me. Why are you laughing?
It came to my attention. I was alerted via messenger pigeon that his sister had an interest.
Listen, I had a pretty bad read on women back in the day. Not today. I'm not the suave connoisseur Jake Oman that I am today. Back then, I was like in my early 20s.
Is this how you lost your second Il Nino CD? Their second album came out and you can no longer listen to it?
I'm so glad any of the music I listened to then, I'm cool to not ever listen to again. See previous episodes like The Gathering. Okay? A lot of whoop whooping going on at this point in my life. So it seemed to me that Dwayne's sister might have a little bit of an attraction to me. Who knows? And I was like, you know what? Maybe I think that too. Like, she's pretty cool. So at one point I was like, I'm kind of worried to talk to Dwayne about this because he's such a good friend of mine. So I go to him like, oh, hey man, I want to have a conversation with you. Like, hey dude, what?
This is like the build up. Yeah. So I asked Dwayne if I could marry his sister because I knew that was the only way this was going to happen.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that intense. It was just like, hey man, like kind of feeling your sister. Like, is that okay? And he was like, oh, yeah, man, that's cool. And he just shrugged it off. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So I felt pretty good about that. I was like, okay, awesome. We're good to go. So then like we're hanging out and like we're going to bed and later that night. And I may or may not have like snuck upstairs and like made out with his sister for a little while. May or may not have. Who knows? Open to interpretation, right? So, huh?
It was the past. It was a little unclear, you know?
Yeah, this was a long time ago and we've grown up since then. So the next day, we hop in the car and we're heading to northern Michigan, Kalkaska to be precise. And it's like, like a 4.5 hour drive. So we're rolling up there and everything's cool. Like, Dwayne, like, I think he knew, but it's like not a big deal because he said it was cool.
How does he know? Why do you think word traveled? Are you not discreet?
I mean, I don't know. People know.
You put it on Twitter, didn't you?
Yeah,
everybody knows.
The other day I heard someone say like, oh yeah, are you ever around like two people and you know they're hooking up, but they think that no one knows they're hooking up, but everyone knows they're hooking up? Like, you know what I'm talking about?
I do. Is that what was going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was it. Where it was just like, okay, yeah, we know what happens. But I did not hook up with Dwayne's sister. She's a great woman.
I want to go on the internet record. Make it known.
I just want everyone to know I did not. Just, we'll make it out. That's fine. Everyone does that. Like, I've made out with a few dudes here and there. It's just fine.
Everyone does that with Dwayne's sister. I mean, come on. No, it's fine. It's fine.
No. She's classy. She's not like that. And I was joking. I've not made out with dudes. I've kissed a few dudes. It's fine. It's 2019. Lighten up. We're on the good driving the show. It's all cool. We get to the show, and we're probably there for like 15 minutes. And Keith comes up to me, and he's like, "Hey, man, I heard about what you did. That's real fucked up, man. That's bullshit." And he walks away. And I have no idea what he's talking about. I was like, dude, what? Oh my God. What did I do? I'm freaking out internally here because Keith has clout in Michigan. Like, he's the type of guy who could get you booted from all these shows. I'm like, oh my God. And like, I was trying to earn his respect. Like, we'd wrestled him a lot lately. I was like, all I want to do is earn this guy's respect because he's a great competitor, great wrestler. Like, I look up to him. So I'm like, oh no, like it rocks me. Then 20 or 30 minutes later, I try and go up to him and he's like, hey man, what's going on? He's like, you know what you did, and that's bullshit, man. Don't talk to me anymore. I was like, ugh. He just walks away. So I'm freaking out. In that time, I go ahead and Dwayne and I, we plan our match and we're talking over things. And I don't know if we had the match yet or not before I finally actually got Keith alone for a second. I was like, hey man, just please talk to me, dude. He's like, hey, yeah, Dwayne told me about you and his sister. And I just want to let you know that that's bullshit, man. And if you were his boy, you wouldn't do that. You'd have enough respect for him to not do that. I thought you were a different type of person than that. He's like, but you're a scumbag.
Did he not know that you had previously asked for a hand in marriage? I mean, come on.
Yeah. So I was like, hey man. And I even came back with that. I said, hey dude, I swear I talked to him about this before any of this. I was like, I never would have even thought about that without permission. And he was like, yeah, well, of course he's going to do that. Like, of course he's going to say it's cool because he's your boy and he cares about you and you're his friend and he doesn't want to be a dick.
Wait, so he outbroed you? Like, you thought you were doing the bro thing and be like, hey man, is it cool?
Mm-hmm.
This guy's like, you're enough of a bro. I'm going to say okay, but I don't mean
it. Yeah, he broed up.
Man.
Yeah.
You were seriously outbroed.
I wasn't even expecting it. Didn't even know that could happen. I was only 21, 22. Like, I was just a young pup. Wasn't even aware. And actually, I think it might have been 2009. So like 10 years ago, almost exactly.
You gotta be up on these subtleties, man. If you're gonna live this life, be in this game.
That's true. So I'm like, Keith walks away, and there's probably a little more back and forth. I'm freaking out inside because I feel like I just disrespected one of my best friends, and like I felt gutted inside. I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe he didn't tell me that it actually bothered him. I never would have done that. Like, oh my God, this might be irreparable damage. Also, I just happened to like piss off like one of those powerful dudes in Michigan. We're just starting to like get onto the Michigan scene. Like, this could really halt my career. So I suck it up. Whatever we have our match, and it's a great match. It's really good. It's exactly what it needed to be. And if I watch it to this day, probably still hold up. That doesn't happen very often. After the match, at some point, I try and go up to Keith again, and he just blows me off. And then I try and go up to him again, and he just blows me off. Then at the end of the night, I am going around like saying goodbye, because when you leave, you want to say goodbye to everyone, shake all the hands, all that good stuff. So I go up to Keith, I stick out my hand, and he's like, he doesn't stick out his hand. He's like, you know what? I'm going to be a true professional. I'm going to shake your hand, but I just want to let you know that I think you're a piece of shit and you're a lowlife. I can't believe you did that. We are not cool. Don't ever speak to me again. Puts out his hand. I shake his hand and I die inside.
That was the moment. Yep.
He might have even said something like, my career up here is done. And I believed him because it could have been that easy because he's been on the scene for so long. So I go get in the car. Dwayne's driving. It's his car. I'm in the passenger seat. He starts up the car. He starts to back out of the parking spot. And I'm like, Dwayne. He's like, yeah, man. Like, hey man, I just want to let you know, like, I love you, man. He's like, yeah, I love you too, man. I'm like, nah, man, like, for real though, like, I love you, and you're one of my best friends, man, and like, I would never disrespect you. And he's like, dude, what's going on? I was like, no, for real, man, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I can't believe that I did something like that. And dude, I started bawling, just weeping. I was like, I kept saying like, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I never want to disrespect you. You're like my best friends. Like, I don't want to lose like one of my best friends. And he's like looking back and forth, like kind of panicking for a second. He's like, wait a second. Wait, hold on, man. Is this about Keith? Is this about the Keith thing? And I was like, yeah. He's like, it's a joke, man. It's just it's a rib. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, it's a rib, man. Calm down. And I'm like, wait, so like, you don't hate me? And he's like, no, man, it's cool. It's just, we're messing with you. I was like, Keith doesn't hate me?
I can still work in Michigan?
And he's like, no, man, no, it's just a joke, man. I'm like, oh, thank God. Oh my God. It's like, I couldn't even get angry because I was so relieved because I thought my career was over. I thought my friendship was over. I thought I screwed like my entire life up. But no, it was just a rib.
Did you then go back to his place and make out with his sister again?
Dude, I hooked up with his sister so hard. Yeah. No, I didn't though. I didn't do that. I don't want to put that on the record now. I did not hook up with that classy young woman.
I think that's the only thing that makes this story funnier. So then I came back and I had to prove a point to Dwayne. So you know what I did?
Oh man, I should have totally I should have disrespected her and stuff. Yeah.
No, I sound like the jerk.
Yeah, exactly.
Nicely played.
But not for real, I didn't do that. Just so everyone knows I didn't. She later married Dwayne's other best friend.
How's that work?
He probably hooked up with her.
I would assume.
Yeah, they probably hooked up.
Because it got the stamp of approval from the man upstairs, via
Jesus.
ceremony.
Yeah.
Boom. So that's legit.
Yep. So there's an actual embarrassing story because I hadn't told an actual embarrassing story yet. I have some more.
I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly, I'm upset that you do that to Smooth, man. Like,
I didn't ever do anything like that. Other people did it. Don't blame me.
I mean, okay, whatever. I hope he doesn't have a sister too. But I mean, it's cool if he does.
For
but
real,
if
people want to listen to my Art Speaker podcast, you can hop on Instagram at artspeak.co and the link's on there. Just hear me talk to Trevor for an hour about my trials and tribulations of professional wrestling.
Look, man, I got no real retaliation plan here. I mean, if we're talking about ribbing, you don't have a sister that I can make out with. And I respect your parents, although I occasionally would make jokes about your attractive mother in high school. I'm going to think of something, though. Mention that podcast again. See what happens to you.
Okay. Well, we'll see if I mention it next week then.
It's disrespectful.
In case there aren't enough listens on this week's that people actually listen to the Art Speaker, which they do in droves.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've seen the metrics.
You haven't?
As of the time the show airs, I will have seen the metrics. I will message them. Great guys. This is actually at Off the Cliff Pod, not Art Speaker. You can follow us on all things. Yeah, I'm at Jake in 2012. He's at Multimedia Hustle. At artspeak.co is pretty sweet too, if you want to check that out. And we will catch you guys next week.